Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in our series, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Without further ado, returning to Great Expectations. It troubled me that there should have been a lurker on the stairs, on that night of all nights in the year, and I asked the watchman, on the chance of eliciting some hopeful explanation as I handed him a dram at the door, whether he had admitted at his gate any gentleman who had perceptibly been dining out. Yes, he said, at different times of the night. 3. One lived in Fountain Court, and the other two lived in the lane, and I had seen them all go home. Again, the only man who dwelt in the house of which my chambers formed a part had been in the country for some weeks, and he certainly had not returned in the night, because we had seen his dog with his seal on it as we came upstairs. "The night being so bad, sir," said the watchman, as he gave me back my glass, "uncommon few have come in at my gate. Besides them, 3 gentlemen that I have named. I don't call to mind another since about 11 o'clock, when a stranger asked for you." "My uncle?" I muttered. "Yes." "You saw him, sir?" "Yes. Oh, yes." "Likewise the person with him?" "Person with him?" I repeated. "I judged the person to be with him," returned the watchman. "The person stopped, when he stopped to make inquiry of me, and the person took this way when he took this way." "What sort of person?" The watchman had not particularly noticed. He should say a working person, to the best of his belief. He had a dust-colored kind of clothes on, under a dark coat. The watchman made more light of the matter than I did, and naturally, not having my reason for attaching weight to it. When I had got rid of him, which I thought it well to do without prolonging explanations, my mind was much troubled by these circumstances, taken together. Whereas they were easy of innocent solution apart, as, for instance, some diner out or diner at home, who had not gone near this watchman's gate, might have strayed to my staircase and dropped asleep there, and my nameless visitor might have brought someone with him to show him the way. Still joined, they had an ugly look to one as prone to distrust and fear as the changes of a few hours had made me. I lighted my fire, which burnt with a raw, pale flare at the time of the morning, and fell into a doze before it. It seemed to have been dozing a whole night when the clock struck 6. As there was full an hour and a half between me and daylight, I dozed again now, waking up uneasily, with prolix conversations about nothing. In my ears, now making thunder of the wind in the chimney, at length falling off into a profound sleep from which the daylight woke me with a start. All this time I have never been able to consider my own situation, nor could I do so yet. I had not the power to attend to it. I was greatly dejected and distressed, but in an incoherent, wholesale sort of way, as to forming any plan for the future. I could as soon have formed an elephant. When I opened the shutters and looked out at the wet, wild morning, all of a leaden hue, when I walked from room to room, I sat down again, shivering, before the fire, waiting for my laundress to appear. I thought how miserable I was, but hardly knew why, or how long I had been so, or on what day of the week I made the reflection, or even who I was that made it. At last the old woman and the niece came in, the latter with a head not easily distinguishable from her dusty broom, and testified surprise at the sight of me and the fire, to whom I imparted how my uncle had come in the night, and was then asleep, and how the breakfast preparations were to be modified accordingly. Then I washed and dressed, while they knocked the furniture about and made a dust, And so, in a sort of dream or sleep waking, I found myself sitting by the fire again, waiting for him to come to breakfast. By and by, his door opened and he came out. I could not bring myself to bear the sight of him, and I thought he had a worse look by the daylight. "I do not even know," said I, speaking low as he took a seat at the table, "by what name to call you. I have given out that you are my uncle." "That's it, dear boy. Call me uncle." "You assumed some name, I suppose, on board ship?" "Yes, dear boy. I took the name of Provis." "Do you mean to keep that name?" "Why, yes, dear boy. It's as good as another, unless you'd like another." "What is your real name?" I asked him in a whisper. "Magwitch," he answered in the same tone, "christened Abel." "What were you brought up to be?" "A warmint, dear boy." He answered quite seriously, and used the word as if it denoted some profession. "When you came into the temple last night," said I, pausing to wonder whether that could really have been last night, which seemed so long ago. "Yes, dear boy." "When you came in at the gate and asked the watchman the way here, had you anyone with you?" "With me? No, dear boy." "But there was someone there." "I didn't take particular notice," he said, dubiously, not knowing the ways of the place. "But I think there was a person, too. Come in alonger me." "Are you known in London?" "I hope not," said he, giving his neck a jerk with his forefinger that made me turn hot and sick. "Were you known in London once?" "Not over and above, dear boy. I was in the provinces mostly." "Were you tried in London?" "Which time?" said he, with a sharp look. "The last time." He nodded. "First knowed Mr. Jaggers that way. Jaggers was for me." It was on my lips to ask him what he was tried for, but he took up a knife and gave it a flourish, and with the words, "And what I done is worked out and paid for," fell to at his breakfast. He ate in a ravenous way that was very disagreeable, and all his actions were uncouth, noisy, and greedy. Some of his teeth had failed him since I saw him eat on the marshes, and as he stood he turned his food in his mouth and draped his head sideways, to bring his strongest fangs to bear upon it. He looked terribly like a hungry old dog. If I had begun with any appetite, he would have taken it away, and I should have sat much as I did, repelled from him by an insurmountable aversion, and gloomily looking at the cloth. "I'm a heavy grubber, dear boy," he said, as a polite kind of apology when he made an end of his meal. "But I always was. If it had been in my constitution to be a lighter grubber, I might have got into lighter trouble. Similarly, I must have my smoke. When I first hired out as shepherd to other side the world, it's my belief I should have turned into a maulin' collie mad sheep myself, if I hadn't had my smoke." As he said so, he got up from the table, and putting his hand into the breast of the pea coat he wore, brought out a short black pipe and a handful of loose tobacco of the kind that is called blackhead. Having filled his pipe, he put the surplus tobacco back again, as if his pocket were a drawer. Then he took a live coal from the fire with the tongs, and lighted his pipe at it, and then turned round on the hearthrug with his back to the fire, and went through his favorite action of holding out both his hands for mine. "And this," said he, dandling my hands up and down in his, as he puffed at his pipe, "and this is the gentleman what I made, the real genuine one. It does me good fur to look at you, Pip. All I stipulate is to stand by and look at you, dear boy." We'll go ahead and stop there for this week. As usual, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care. And thanks again